Good day, viewers, and welcome to Business PNG. Today we have with us Mr. Troy Stubbings, who is Director at KPMG PNG. Hi, Troy, and welcome to the program.
Thank you, Nicolina.
Okay. Now, Troy, KPMG PNG is one of the world's big four advisory and accounting firms. Now, what kind of practices are you offering in PNG?
Nicolina, we offer the three major strands. So the big four offer basically the same three major strands, which is generally summarised as tax, audit or assurance, and advisory. So our tax practice offers the full range of tax services to local PNG businesses of all size, and also in particular services quite a few international businesses that are investing in Papua New Guinea. That way we're able to offer them country to country international tax advice. In regard to the classic audit service line, KPMG offers that to many of the large PNG businesses and state-owned enterprises who are looking for that big brand to give their shareholders and stakeholders assurance of the quality of reporting. So that's a strong line of our business and a fairly well understood line of our business. The audit practice, as with others, has merged into the assurance lines of services, which extends beyond classic year-end qualification and assurance of the numbers into more value-add services throughout normal business practice, as to internal audit controls, maybe some special services like forensic services, so a broad category of assurance. And then the one where we have particularly focused on and developed quite a strong market position in the last several years is in our advisory practice. In our advisory practice, we leverage off a lot of the skills from particularly our Australian practice and other international practices. And our advisory offering is really about adding value to businesses, again private or state-owned businesses, as to how they can improve their business. Whether that be IT systems, strategic direction, transforming their business, blah, blah, blah. So that's the three broad categories as to what we offer in KPMG PNG.
Okay. Out of those three categories that you've mentioned, which would you say is your strongest sort of business in PNG?
So the two mainstream ones, tax and audit, we're consistently strong in. I think the one that we've probably developed and focused most on in the last 3 or 4 years has been our advisory offering. We've done a number of pretty big and important jobs for private and public sector over the last few years. So I think KPMG PNG, if we had a really strong suit in this market, it's on the advisory side, adding value to businesses' ongoing operations and future operations.
Okay, is that in any particular segment of, industry, whether it's in resource or agriculture, or what industry would that be?
I think if you look back over the particular focus of work in the last couple of years, without a doubt, I think we've done a tremendous amount of work in two key sectors: transport infrastructure, economic infrastructure, and financial markets. So they're probably the two ones that we've got particular strength in PNG for.
KPMG has been extensively involved with several key economic infrastructural developments in PNG, especially, you mentioned in ports, transport, communication sectors. Could you share some of the specific unique practices that KPMG has in PNG?
Sure. It's been, the last 4 years have been really interesting for me in particular, and the team that has helped me work on some of these jobs. We've done a significant piece of work for Civil Aviation Authority a few years ago, now NAC, that required us to go in and help them review, strategically analyse their whole operation as they were sort of deciding what to do with airports in the future and what development plans. So we assisted NAC with reviewing all of that and coming up with a strategic plan as to how they would develop, in particular, 3 main airports. But within that job, we helped them really understand their business model and how that interfaces with the airlines. So that was quite rewarding.
Okay.
It helped them also understand and work a little bit better with the ADB loan that they received. We then followed that job up in the transport space with a really interesting one with Department of Transport, whereby we were challenged with Department of Transport to improve the way that PNG thought about how they choose transport infrastructure, i.e. roads, ports, airports and bridges, investments as to where we should spend our money. Because you've always got that balance of anywhere in the world, including PNG, of politically inspired
Yes.
decisions, and PNG is not unique in that regard, versus what is most economically gainful. And so we worked with a couple of engineering partners on that, and we helped Department of Transport formulate what's called a benefit cost appraisal tool, so that they can try and work out what the economic benefits are of various bridge or ports or air projects. That was particularly interesting because it allowed us to not only work with the central transport agencies of Department of Transport, Department of Works, PNG Ports, Civil Aviation. It also allowed us to go out into the provinces, which was tremendous. So we actually were challenged to go out to the provinces, all 20 provincial administrations, and sit with them under this mandate and say, righto, share with us, or Department of Transport, what your transport requirements are and how would you appraise them, and if we use this model, would it change the way that you think about your prioritisation? So that was a really informative and beneficial experience, not just for us and Department of Transport, but also for provincial administration. Also what we've done is we've had a relationship with PNG Ports and IPBC, whereby we've helped them look at, in a different way, some of their analysis around the ports redevelopment and ports relocation studies that have been done. So in the transport scene, that's given us a fairly interesting viewpoint on what's happened.
Okay, well, Troy, thank you for that. We'll go for a quick commercial break and we'll be back with you.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Business PNG. We're continuing our discussion with Troy Stubbings of KPMG PNG. Now, Troy, PNG's global studies show that urban infrastructure is one of the most pressing challenges facing the world today. Now, what do you see its impact on PNG?
Michael, there's been some recent press about the concept of urbanisation off the back of the Poraparina freeway failure. I must say that it accords very well with our viewpoints and feelings about, I think it brought to a head the challenges of urbanisation in PNG. It showed that our reliance on one key piece of infrastructure is there's too much faith put in that one key piece of infrastructure. I think the challenges that we all have going to work every day and coming home from work every day is a classic sign of the urbanisation stress that PNG is going through. I certainly support the cause of the Urbanisation Office. What our observation is internationally, but more so locally, off the back of those transport studies, is that probably, apart from political will missing, which is what the press suggests, and again I support, is actually the concept of integrated transport planning. So a concept that we've been raising through all the central transport agencies is this concept that you can't do the port redevelopment in isolation. Equally so, you can't do the road redevelopment in isolation, and nor the airport redevelopment in isolation. So the concept of integrated transport planning within the urbanisation plan is something that I think the authorities are hearing, and we just need a little bit more of central agency focus to get there and And it's not that it's not known, it's just, again, it's just hasn't been prioritised perhaps as much as it should.
Okay, now from your perspective in terms of centralising, one body to look after all these different segments, I mean, who do you see from your perspective, who is the body? Do you set up something new, or who should be taking charge of this?
Very good question. And I think that question actually goes to the very issue that is causing it to stumble. It's a very complex equation that the central agencies are being challenged to consider. Whether it's Department of Transport, if we talk about Port Moresby,
sure.
Whether it's Department of Transport, whether it's NCD, whether it's Department of Treasury, it's a really difficult answer because each of these organisations has their own framework, their own governance framework. But until you answer that question, I don't think it's going to progress. Yeah.
Now, Troy, thanks for that explanation. We've been talking a lot about infrastructure, the impacts on roads, and how to centralise maybe those different segments. Now, in terms of ports, it's a very instrumental part in getting services, goods and services, well, especially goods in and around the country. How do you see that?
Michelina, I think everybody knows that Port Moresby and Lae are the gateways for everything pretty much that comes in and out of PNG, and without a doubt, some of the redevelopment activities that PNG Ports have got planned are very important to execute. Ports, getting ports right is critical to improving the transport activity in Port Moresby and Lae, without a doubt. Some of the initiatives that I think PNG Ports have got in place are heading down the right path. Again, it's not easy as to what they're trying to achieve, but very, very important. I think everybody's aware that at the moment the issues with the cost of goods going up and the commentary around transport costs adding significantly to the cost of goods is very real, and it's real in the sense that the way that ports are interfacing with roads, and again, this lack of integrated transport planning is highlighting the issue that it's taking a long time for the transport companies, a lot longer than what it used to for the transport companies to clear the ports, to deliver to the customers, and return to the ports. So this lack of integration, is now creating a vicious cycle of it's taking us longer to clear the ports, which creates issues with clearing the vessels.
That's right.
The net effect is, from my understanding from the business community, is where transport companies used to have a fleet of 50 trucks, over the last couple of years, in particular with the congestion, they're now having to have 60 or 70 trucks. So the lack of integration, ignoring it at the high level is costing industry and costing consumers without a doubt because of this vicious cycle. So getting PNG Ports correct within their own boundaries, but also the integration with the road transport system is critical to PNG's future success.
Okay. Now, moving into the future, in terms of, in the next 2-3 years, we're having, PNG will be hosting the South Pacific Games. Now, obviously that will be a challenge in terms of, people coming into the country. Now, what advice would you have with regard to, organising ourselves better for that?
Sure. Maybe not necessarily related to ports, but look, the SP Games, I think, or the Pacific Games 2015 is going to be a fairly exciting time for PNG, and as people talk about it, it's a great chance to improve sporting infrastructure. I think the challenge, again, from the lack of focus on integrated transport planning is it's going to have a significant impact on the organisers being able to successfully transport athletes and officials, to and from the Games Village to venues. So again, I think the same scenario with transport companies taking freight off the ports out to consumers. There's a big challenge ahead for the SP Games for the same reason. Where it used to take 20 minutes from Waigani to Bassini, you can see it's going to take 30, 40 minutes from Waigani to Bassini. So again, I think that's going to be the challenge in relation to the SP Games and the transport network.
Well, Troy, thank you for that. We'll go for a quick commercial break and we'll be back. Now, Troy, telecommunication is a very important building block for development in the financial infrastructure of PNG. How does KPMG see this?
Look, I think the engagement and adoption of electronic banking in PNG, particularly in the last few years, with the increase in mobile networks, is without a doubt a tremendous thing for PNG. I think all the banks are doing a great job in giving greater access to the public and consumers for adopting this. That's the good of it. From our sort of analysis, one of the challenges for PNG to make good of this new technology is the regulation and protection of consumers' money. So I think in the background, there's a lot of work being done with the mobile companies and the banks and Bank of PNG about regulation and control of people's money that passes through electronic channels. So that's a good thing. That's certainly a good thing that's happening in the background for PNG. I think what it does highlight is probably another issue emerging for PNG that as our savings in PNG and the funds available for investment in PNG is increasing, the electronic channels access has highlighted the issue of, at a higher level, are consumers in PNG protected enough? Is their money protected enough from people offering investment advice who perhaps aren't qualified? Similarly, the electronic channel question is, are there enough controls in place to make sure people's money is fully accounted for and doesn't go missing?
That's right. Yeah. Is the network secure in some respect?
And full visibility. And full visibility. Yeah. And look, this challenge for PNG is going to morph very quickly, or it is morphing very quickly into one of the key issues for government and private sector to work out is, how do we best use the increase in wealth in PNG? And without a doubt, I think the regulations surrounding financial markets and protection of consumers, it's probably long overdue for picking up and improving. Pretty much I think there hasn't been much done with financial markets regulation improvement since the late 90s, early 2000s, and PNG has changed.
Okay. Now, with specific regard to regulating of advice given, can you further elaborate on that, on some specific things you would like see to be implemented or discussed openly about?
Sure. Our observations are that the regulation of investment advice pretty much exists around the super funds. There's quite good documentation and controls around who can be an investment manager for super funds. Below super funds, when it comes to investment management regulation, there's not a lot of structure. And if you look at where PNG is going, there's a huge pool of funds emerging in that space. So, can we go to the same level as Australia or other advanced markets in one step? Probably not. But there's probably a number of steps PNG can move down towards to ensure that investment advice is better regulated at individual level, at fund level, at landowner group level, for the protection of consumers.
Yeah, and that predominantly would be initiated by the Bank of Papua New Guinea, would you say, or other bodies within the country to do that? Could you elaborate a bit about that?
The Bank of PNG is a great institution. There's no doubt I think they sit in the box seat for it. But again, like all institutions, their bandwidth and capacity for doing all things is going to be challenged at a point. But I think, our view is that Bank of PNG is probably the correct one to start the initiative off.
Okay. Now, Troy, how do you see the general economic outlook for 2012 and moving in the next 2 or 3 years?
Fantastic. I think if these projects deliver as we've got no reason to believe they're not, I think PNG, like everybody, it's going to be a fairly interesting, positive time. I don't think we've seen the full extent of Moribi, what Moribi province means to PNG yet. You know, I say that with our infrastructure hat on. I think the future of PNG very much needs to get behind Morribee province and Lae in particular. It holds the keys to a lot of PNG's future success, you know, starting at the ports all the way through 11 Mile Junction and certainly continuing up the Highlands Highway. You know, Morribee province has got the Ramu 2 development for power, which is again critical for so many developments in PNG. So we've got a little bit of, like a lot of businesses, a little bit of a focus on, you know, how to make Morribee stronger. It's not just all about NCD. There's no doubt that improving NCD is important for the platform for PNG. The agricultural industry, we're enthused by the increased level of discussion that people are giving around how to make the agri-industry step up. We're still some way away from that, but at least we're talking about it. The communications platform for PNG, I think, is absolutely critical for PNG to harvest the benefits of its economic future. The initiative that IPBC are talking about with the fibre optic cable, you know, traversing the whole country and giving access to the 10 gigs out of Madang.
Yeah.
You know, the uplift you're going to get in GDP just from that alone, I think is quite excitingly frightening. The improvement for health and education, the improvement for the transport sector, the improvement for law and order off the back of that one single initiative is just really exciting. So, you know, we wish government well in implementing that fibre optic cable, because it will be a key to PNG's success in leveraging up the resource boom.
Okay.
Without a doubt.
Well, Troy, thank you so much for joining Business PNG today, and we wish you a successful 2012. Thank you.
Thanks, Michaela. Pleasure.